Something orchestrated this moment. Not chance, not coincidence, but the intelligent field of consciousness itself, placing you exactly where you need to be to receive what you're about to hear. You've been sensing it, haven't you? That underground current running beneath everything you thought you knew about your life. That frequency that hums just below your awareness, growing stronger each day. The reality you've constructed feels secure, manageable. But security, you're starting to understand, might just be unconscious slumber disguised as conscious living. Those around you might not recognize this awakening stirring within you. They perceive stability where you experience limitation, but your soul wasn't designed for everyone's comprehension. Every decision that delivered you to this precise moment, every unexpected turn, every season of uncertainty, it was all curriculum. Your history wasn't error. It was initiation into who you're becoming. You don't require authorization to desire expansion. You don't need validation to follow what beckons you forward. The only consent you've ever required was the one you give yourself. Picture yourself years ahead, reflecting on this exact instant. Will you recall this as the moment you finally listened, or as another opportunity you allowed to dissolve into the background noise of ordinary days? This isn't just another random weekday. This is the moment your deeper intelligence chose to override the voice of limitation. It requires quiet strength to acknowledge when your current path no longer serves your evolution. You've always carried more courage than you've given yourself credit for. What if this sensation you've been resisting isn't danger, but destiny calling? What if your restlessness is actually your internal navigation system recalibrating toward your authentic trajectory? The power has always resided within you. It always will. You can retreat to the known, or you can trust that the aspect of your being that guided you here understands something your analyzing mind hasn't yet decoded. Pay attention. Your transformation isn't approaching. It's already begun. But here's what most people don't understand about these pivotal moments, these quantum turning points that appear in our lives. They're not random interruptions in our story. They're the story. They're the moments when the universe stops pretending that your small life and the cosmic intelligence operating through all existence are separate things. You see, consciousness isn't something you have. Consciousness is what you are. And consciousness, by its very nature, is always evolving, always expanding, always seeking greater expressions of itself through the unique vessel of your experience. The discomfort you've been feeling? It's not a sign that something's wrong. It's a sign that something's awakening. Your consciousness is literally outgrowing the container of your current identity. Like a plant whose roots have expanded beyond the boundaries of its pot. Most people, when they reach these thresholds, do one of two things. They either numb the discomfort with distractions, convincing themselves that this stirring is just stress or dissatisfaction that will pass, or they interpret it as a crisis, something to be fixed or solved rather than honored as sacred information. But you're here, which means you're beginning to understand a third option. You're starting to recognize that this inner pressure isn't something to escape from or overcome. It's something to surrender into, to trust, to follow like a golden thread leading you toward the next version of yourself. Think about how a snake sheds its skin. The old skin doesn't become damaged or diseased. It simply becomes too small. The snake doesn't resist this process or try to make the old skin work longer. It trusts the intelligence of its own growth and allows what no longer fits to fall away. Your turning point is asking you to trust this same intelligence, the intelligence that grew you from a single cell into the complex, conscious being you are today. The intelligence that beats your heart without your instruction and heals your wounds without your micromanagement. This intelligence knows when it's time to shed what's too small and step into what's emerging, and right now, it's speaking to you through that quiet restlessness, that growing sense that there's more to life than what you've been living. Here's where quantum physics meets spiritual truth in the most practical way possible. At the quantum level, particles exist in what scientists call superposition, existing in multiple potential states simultaneously until observation collapses them into a specific reality. You, right now, exist in superposition. The you who continues on your current path and the you who honors this calling both exist as potential realities. The question isn't which one is more real. The question is which one you're going to observe into existence through your choices. Every time you acknowledge this stirring instead of dismissing it, you're observing the emerging version of yourself into greater reality. Every time you honor the calling instead of reasoning it away, you're collapsing the quantum field in favor of your evolution. But here's what creates resistance in this process. Your current identity, the story you've been telling yourself about who you are and what's possible for you, is invested in staying the same. It's like a magnetic field pulling you back toward the familiar. This isn't personal weakness. This is how consciousness operates. The part of you that's been keeping you safe, managing your daily existence, coordinating your responsibilities, it's doing exactly what it was designed to do. It's trying to maintain stability and coherence in your experience. The challenge is that what once served your survival is now limiting your evolution. The very mechanisms that helped you navigate your earlier chapters are now creating resistance to your next chapter. This is why turning points often feel uncomfortable, even when we know they're leading us towards something better. Part of you recognizes the truth of what's emerging, while another part of you activates every defense mechanism to maintain the status quo. Understanding this removes the self-judgment from the process. You're not being resistant because you lack courage or commitment. You're experiencing the natural tension between preservation and transformation that every conscious being navigates when they're expanding beyond their current limits. If this understanding is creating a shift in how you see your own resistance, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to stay connected to these frequency transmissions that support your ongoing evolution. In the comments, I'd love to hear about a moment when you chose growth over safety in your own life. What did that choice reveal to you about your capacity for transformation? The key is learning to distinguish between the voice of authentic guidance and the voice of comfortable familiarity. Guidance often feels like a quiet knowing, a gentle but persistent pull towards something that lights you up, even if you can't fully explain why. Familiarity, on the other hand, speaks in terms of reasons and logistics. It asks, but how? And what if? And remember last time? It's not wrong, but it's operating from the data of your past, rather than the possibility of your future. Your turning point is inviting you to become fluent in the language of guidance, while still honoring the practical wisdom of your logical mind. Not choosing one over the other, but learning to let guidance lead while logic supports. This is where most people get stuck. They think they need to have it all figured out before they take the first step. They wait for a detailed map of the entire journey before they're willing to trust the compass. But consciousness doesn't work like GPS navigation. It works like a flashlight in the dark, illuminating just enough of the path ahead for you to take the next step safely. Each step you take in trust reveals more of the path, but never the entire route at once. This isn't a bug in the system. It's a feature. It's designed this way because the person who begins the journey isn't the same person who completes it. If you could see the entire path from the beginning, you'd be planning from the perspective of who you are now, not who you're becoming. The universe reveals the path progressively because you need to become the person capable of walking each new section. What seems impossible from your current vantage point becomes natural from your evolved perspective. So your turning point isn't really about making one big dramatic change. It's about developing the trust to take the next step, and then the next one, and then the next one, allowing each step to transform you into someone capable of taking the step after that. Take a moment and comment below with this phrase: I trust the intelligence that brought me here to guide me forward. Let this be your conscious declaration to the field of infinite possibility that you're ready to collaborate with your own evolution rather than resist it. This isn't casual engagement. This is energetic commitment. When you type these words and share them, you're creating a coherent signal in the quantum field, aligning your intention with your attention in a way that activates the support structures already waiting to assist your transformation. Now, here's something profound that most people never consider about these turning points. They're not just personal events. They're cosmic events expressing themselves through your individual experience. The same intelligence that orchestrates the movement of galaxies and the cycles of seasons is the intelligence that's creating this stirring within you. Your personal evolution is part of a larger evolutionary wave moving through human consciousness right now. You're not just changing your own life, you're participating in the collective awakening of our species. Every time someone honors their authentic calling, instead of settling for comfortable complacency, it creates a resonance field that makes it easier for others to do the same. This is why your courage matters beyond your individual experience. When you choose growth over safety, expansion over contraction, possibility over probability, you're not just changing your own trajectory. You're contributing to a global shift in what humans believe is possible. Think of it like this. In nature, when one tree in a forest begins to bloom, it releases chemical signals that trigger blooming in nearby trees. Your willingness to trust this turning point in your life sends similar signals through the collective field of human consciousness. Others will feel permission to honor their own stirrings because you honored yours. They'll feel safe to trust their own guidance because you trusted yours. Your individual transformation becomes a contribution to collective transformation. This is how evolution happens, not through mass movements or grand gestures, but through individual consciousness choosing to expand beyond its current limitations, one person at a time, creating ripple effects that eventually become waves of change. What we've explored today barely scratches the surface of what becomes possible when you learn to consciously work with these quantum principles of transformation. While this turning point is your invitation to begin, there's an entire framework of consciousness mastery that can guide you through the complete journey from seeking to being, from unconscious transmission to becoming the broadcast itself. But here's the paradox. You can't do this for others. You can only do it for yourself in a way that serves others. You can't skip your own evolution to help someone else with theirs. You can't pour from an empty cup or guide others to places you haven't been willing to go yourself. Your primary responsibility is to your own authentic unfolding. When you honor that responsibility fully, it automatically becomes a gift to everyone whose life you touch. If this resonates with something deep inside you, If you can feel the truth of what we're exploring here, awakening something that's been dormant in your awareness, then I invite you to subscribe, not just to this channel, but to this frequency of conscious evolution. This isn't about consuming content. This is about joining a community of consciousness that's committed to growing beyond the limitations of conventional thinking and living. When you subscribe, you're saying yes to staying connected to this energy of transformation and possibility. You're saying yes to regular reminders that you're not here to live a small life. You're here to discover and express the fullness of what's possible through your unique configuration of consciousness. Now, let's talk about what actually happens when you start honoring these turning points instead of dismissing them. Most people think that following their authentic calling means their life will suddenly become easy, that doors will magically open and obstacles will disappear. That's not how it works. What happens is that your life becomes aligned. And alignment isn't always comfortable, but it's always truthful. If you're ready to dive deeper into the 9 master frequencies that govern reality creation and discover the step-by-step practices for moving beyond survival static into effortless creation, you'll find layers upon layers of understanding in my complete guide, Beyond the Frequencies, a quantum guide to consciousness mastery. It's linked in the pinned comment below. When you start living in alignment with your deeper intelligence, you stop wasting energy on things that don't actually matter to your soul's evolution. You start investing your life force in directions that generate energy rather than drain it. This might mean saying no to opportunities that look good on paper, but don't feel right in your body. It might mean disappointing people who prefer the predictable version of you over the evolving version of you. It might mean releasing identities and roles that gave you security, but limited your expression. It might mean learning new skills, developing new capacities, stepping into territories where you're a beginner again. But here's what makes it worthwhile. When you're aligned with your authentic path, even the challenges feel meaningful. Even the difficulties contribute to your growth rather than just wearing you down. You start experiencing what I call coherent struggle versus chaotic struggle. Chaotic struggle is when you're fighting against the current of your own life, trying to force outcomes that aren't in harmony with your deeper nature. Coherent struggle is when you're working with the resistance that naturally emerges when you're growing beyond your current capacity. It's the resistance of the caterpillar dissolving into the butterfly, the resistance of the seed cracking open to become the tree. This kind of resistance isn't trying to stop you. It's trying to strengthen you. It's developing the muscles of consciousness you'll need to navigate the reality you're growing into. Most people avoid this coherent struggle because it feels challenging, not realizing that the alternative, chaotic struggle is actually far more exhausting and ultimately unfulfilling. When you're fighting against your own evolution, you're working against the most powerful force in the universe, the intelligence that's trying to express itself more fully through your experience. When you're working with your evolution, that same intelligence becomes your ally, arranging synchronicities, opening pathways, bringing resources and connections that support your unfolding. This doesn't mean the path becomes easy. It means it becomes energizing. There's a quality of flow that emerges when you're moving in the direction of your authentic development, even when that movement involves effort and uncertainty. You start noticing that the universe has a sense of humor, that it's actually quite playful in how it orchestrates the circumstances that support your growth. What seemed like random events begin revealing themselves as perfectly timed lessons and opportunities. The people who enter your life start feeling less accidental and more purposeful. The challenges you encounter start feeling less personal and more developmental. The resources you need start appearing with timing that feels almost magical. This is what happens when you stop trying to control your evolution and start collaborating with it. You discover that you're not alone in this process, that there's an intelligence at work that's far more sophisticated than your individual planning mind. But collaboration requires trust, and trust requires practice. You don't develop trust by waiting until you feel completely confident. You develop trust by taking small steps in the direction of your authentic calling and noticing that you're supported in ways you didn't expect. Each time you honor the quiet voice of your inner guidance over the loud voice of social conditioning, you build evidence that it's safe to trust yourself. Each time you choose possibility over probability, you expand your capacity to receive what wants to emerge through your life. Pause for a moment and reflect. What's one pattern or belief you've been ready to release that no longer serves your evolution? Share it in the comments below. Sometimes naming what we're letting go of helps us step more fully into what we're becoming. This is how you develop what I call quantum faith. Not belief in a particular outcome, but trust in the intelligence of the process itself. Faith that consciousness knows how to evolve consciousness, that life knows how to express itself more fully through the vehicle of your individual experience. Here's something most people don't realize about turning points. They're not one-time events. They're ongoing invitations. Life is constantly offering you opportunities to grow beyond your current limitations, to express more of your authentic nature, to contribute to the world in ways that utilize your unique gifts. The question isn't whether you'll face turning points. The question is whether you'll recognize them and respond with courage, or dismiss them and wonder what might have been. Every day contains smaller versions of the choice you're facing right now. In every moment, you can choose to expand or contract, to trust or control, to honor what's emerging or cling to what's familiar. Your big turning points are actually the result of countless small choices to remain open to growth rather than closed to change. They're the culmination of 1,000 micro-decisions to stay curious about what's possible rather than certain about what's practical. This is why your current moment matters so much. Not because it's the only moment you'll ever have to change your life, but because it's your opportunity to practice the kind of consciousness that creates positive change as an ongoing way of being. When you start approaching life as a continuous opportunity for evolution rather than a problem to be solved or a goal to be achieved, everything changes. You stop waiting for the perfect moment to begin living authentically and start using every moment to practice authenticity. You stop postponing your aliveness until you have all the answers and start discovering your answers through your willingness to be fully alive right now, in whatever circumstances you're currently navigating. This is the secret that no one tells you about personal transformation. It's not about becoming someone completely different. It's about becoming more fully yourself than you've ever allowed yourself to be. Your authentic self isn't something you need to create or construct. It's something you need to uncover and express. It's already here, already complete, already perfect, waiting underneath all the layers of conditioning and compromise you've accumulated over the years. Your turning point is an invitation to start peeling back those layers, not through force or criticism, but through gentle honesty and compassionate curiosity about who you really are when you're not trying to be who you think you should be. This process of uncovering your authentic self is like being an archaeologist of your own consciousness. You're not building something new. You're excavating something ancient and eternal that's been buried under years of other people's expectations and your own self-doubt. Each layer you remove reveals more of the luminous being you've always been. Each story you release that isn't truly yours creates more space for the truth of who you are to breathe and express itself. This is why turning points can feel both terrifying and exhilarating simultaneously. The terror comes from your ego's recognition that change is happening. The exhilaration comes from your soul's recognition that it's finally safe to emerge. Let me share something with you about the nature of these turning points that most spiritual teachers won't tell you. They're not just psychological events or emotional experiences. They're actually quantum events. Moments when the field of infinite possibility reorganizes itself around your expanded awareness. When you reach a genuine turning point, you're not just changing your mind about your life. You're literally shifting into a different probability stream, a different timeline of potential outcomes that exist in parallel to your previous trajectory. This is where quantum physics becomes not just fascinating theory, but practical wisdom for navigating your transformation. At the quantum level, reality exists as waves of possibility until consciousness observes them into specific experiences. Your old life, the one that feels too small now, exists as one probability wave. The life that's calling to you, the one that feels simultaneously exciting and impossible, exists as another probability wave. Right now, you're standing at the intersection where these waves meet. Most people don't realize they have the power to choose which probability wave to collapse into reality through their observation, attention, and conscious choice. They think life happens to them rather than through them. But you're beginning to understand something different. You're beginning to recognize that consciousness isn't just along for the ride of experience. Consciousness is the driver, the navigator, and the road itself. This recognition changes everything about how you approach your turning point. Instead of asking, "What should I do?" you start asking, "What am I ready to become?" Instead of trying to figure out the right choice, you start aligning with the frequency of the reality you want to experience. This is the shift from doing-based transformation to being-based transformation. From trying to change your circumstances to changing the consciousness that creates your circumstances. When you operate from being-based transformation, your external actions become expressions of your internal alignment rather than desperate attempts to force outcomes that don't match your vibrational frequency. Think about a tuning fork. When you strike a tuning fork tuned to 440 Hz, it will cause nearby objects tuned to the same frequency to spontaneously begin vibrating. This isn't effort or manipulation. This is resonance, the natural law of like attracting like. Your consciousness operates on the same principle. When you align with the frequency of the reality you want to experience, you become a tuning fork that naturally attracts circumstances, people, and opportunities that match that vibration. But here's where most people get confused. They try to use this understanding to manipulate outcomes, to force the universe to deliver specific results on their timeline. This is still doing-based thinking, disguised as spiritual wisdom. True frequency alignment isn't about getting what you want. It's about becoming who you are and trusting that what's meant for you will find you when you're ready to receive it. This requires a fundamental shift in how you understand desire itself. Most people experience desire as lack, as evidence that they don't have what they want. But conscious desire is actually intelligence, information from your future self about what wants to emerge through your experience. When you feel called towards something that lights you up, that calling isn't coming from emptiness. It's coming from fullness recognizing itself. It's your expanded self reaching back through time to guide your current self toward the experiences that will allow that expansion to manifest. This is why your turning point feels so compelling. It's not random restlessness or dissatisfaction with your current circumstances. It's actual information from the field of infinite possibility about what's trying to emerge through the unique configuration of consciousness that you are. But receiving this information requires a different quality of listening than most people are accustomed to. It requires what I call field listening rather than mental listening. Mental listening is when you try to figure out what you should do based on analyzing your circumstances, weighing pros and cons, and making logical decisions based on past data. Field listening is when you drop into the space beneath your thoughts and feel for the direction that has energy, that feels alive, that creates expansion in your awareness rather than contraction. Mental listening keeps you trapped in the probability streams of your past conditioning. Field listening opens you to the probability streams of your authentic potential. Most people have never learned to distinguish between these two types of listening because our culture only validates mental listening. We're taught to trust our reasoning minds and ignore the subtle intelligence of our energy bodies. But your energy body is actually a more sophisticated navigational system than your analytical mind when it comes to making decisions about your life's direction. Your energy body can sense the vibrational signature of different choices before your mind has even formulated them into options. This is why sometimes you know something is right for you before you can explain why. This is why sometimes you feel resistance to opportunities that look perfect on paper. Your energy body is reading information that your mind doesn't have access to. Learning to trust this subtler intelligence is one of the most important skills you can develop for navigating your turning points consciously. It's the difference between forcing your transformation and allowing your transformation. When you force transformation, you use your willpower to override your natural rhythms and push yourself toward outcomes that your mind thinks you should want. This creates internal resistance and makes change feel like struggle. When you allow transformation, you cooperate with the intelligence that's already moving in your life, supporting the changes that want to happen naturally, while releasing attachment to changes that aren't in alignment with your deeper unfolding. This doesn't mean being passive or waiting for change to happen to you. It means becoming an active participant in the intelligence of your own evolution, rather than trying to control it from the limited perspective of your individual planning mind. Active participation looks like paying attention to what's arising in your experience, noticing what you're drawn toward and what you're moving away from, following the threads of curiosity and inspiration while releasing the need to know where they lead. It looks like saying yes to invitations that feel alive even when they don't make logical sense. It looks like creating space in your life for emergence, for possibility, for the unexpected ways that transformation wants to express itself through your experience. Most importantly, it looks like developing the patience to let your transformation unfold at its own pace, rather than trying to rush it or force it to happen on your timeline. This patience isn't passive waiting, it's active trust. Trust that the same intelligence that grew you from a single cell into a complex conscious being knows how to guide your continued evolution. Trust that consciousness knows how to evolve consciousness, that life knows how to express itself more fully through the vehicle of your individual experience. This trust becomes the foundation for what I call surrendered action. Action that comes from alignment rather than anxiety, from inspiration rather than desperation, from wholeness rather than lack. When you act from surrendered alignment, your actions carry a different quality of energy. They feel effortless even when they require effort. They generate energy rather than depleting it. They create flow rather than friction. Other people can feel this difference in your energy. Opportunities respond to this difference. The universe itself responds to this difference because you're operating in harmony with the way consciousness actually moves, rather than fighting against it. This is what it means to become a conscious co-creator with life itself. You contribute your human gifts of intention, attention, and choice. Life contributes its cosmic gifts of timing, orchestration, and infinite possibility. Together, you create experiences that neither could create alone. Experiences that serve not just your individual evolution, but the evolution of consciousness itself. Your turning point is actually an invitation into this level of co-creative partnership, an invitation to stop trying to control your life and start collaborating with it. But collaboration requires humility. The humility to recognize that your individual perspective, however intelligent and well-intentioned, is limited compared to the perspective of the whole. This doesn't mean diminishing your importance or your unique contribution. It means recognizing that your importance comes not from being separate and special, but from being a conscious expression of the same intelligence that operates through all existence. When you operate from this understanding, your choices naturally align with what serves the highest good, because you recognize that your highest good and the collective highest good are not separate things. You stop asking, "What's in it for me?" and start asking, "What wants to emerge through me that serves the evolution of the whole?" This shift in questioning transforms everything about how you approach your turning point. You stop trying to get something from your transformation and start offering yourself as a vehicle for transformation. You stop asking life to give you what you want and start asking how you can give life what it wants to express through your unique configuration of gifts and capacities. This is the secret that no one tells you about authentic transformation. It's not about becoming someone different so you can have a different life. It's about discovering who you really are, so you can give your authentic gifts to life. Your turning point is actually life asking you to stop withholding yourself, to stop playing small, to stop pretending that your gifts and your calling don't matter. It's asking you to trust that who you are, when you're fully yourself, is exactly what the world needs more of. Not a perfect version of yourself, not an improved version of yourself, but the authentic version of yourself that's been waiting underneath all the conditioning and compromise. This authentic self isn't something you need to create or achieve. It's something you need to remember and express. It's already here, already whole, already perfect, waiting for you to stop trying to be someone else. Your transformation isn't about adding something to yourself. It's about subtracting everything that isn't truly you until only your essence remains. This process of subtraction, of letting go of what isn't authentic, can feel like loss even when it's actually liberation. This is why turning points often involve grief as well as excitement. You're grieving the loss of familiar identities, even identities that limited you. You're grieving the loss of known territories, even territories that confined you. You're grieving the death of who you thought you had to be to survive in the world. This grief is sacred. It's not a sign that you're making a mistake. It's a sign that you're releasing something real, something that served you in its time, something that deserves to be honored as you let it go. Allowing this grief, rather than rushing past it or trying to think your way through it, is an essential part of conscious transformation. It's how you complete the energetic cycle of what was so you can open fully to what's emerging. When you try to skip the grief, you carry the energy of the old patterns into the new reality you're creating. This creates internal conflict and makes your transformation feel incomplete or unstable. When you honor the grief, you create clean space for the new reality to establish itself without interference from the energetic residue of what came before. This is why many people experience their deepest turning points as dark nights of the soul. They're not just changing their external circumstances. They're dying to who they used to be so they can be reborn as who they're becoming. This death and rebirth isn't metaphorical. It's an actual energetic process where aspects of your identity literally dissolve so that new aspects can emerge. The discomfort you feel during this process isn't a sign that something's wrong. It's a sign that something profound is shifting at the deepest levels of your being. Understanding this helps you navigate the challenging aspects of your turning point with more grace and less resistance. You stop trying to make the process comfortable and start trusting the intelligence of the discomfort. You recognize that the caterpillar's experience of dissolving in the chrysalis isn't pleasant, but it's necessary for the butterfly to emerge. Your discomfort is often the sign that your transformation is working, not that it's failing. This doesn't mean seeking discomfort or making transformation unnecessarily difficult. It means learning to distinguish between the discomfort of growth and the discomfort of resistance. The discomfort of growth feels challenging but energizing. It stretches you beyond your current capacity while still feeling fundamentally right. It's the discomfort of a muscle strengthening under healthy challenge. The discomfort of resistance feels draining and depleting. It comes from fighting against the natural flow of your evolution, from trying to force outcomes that aren't in alignment with your deeper unfolding. Learning to navigate by this felt sense of right discomfort versus wrong discomfort becomes one of your most reliable guides through the uncertainty of transformation. When something feels challenging but right, you lean into it. When something feels challenging and wrong, you step back and reassess. This simple distinction can save you years of struggling in directions that aren't truly yours. Your turning point is asking you to develop this level of energetic discernment, this ability to navigate by the subtle intelligence of your whole being rather than just the analytical intelligence of your thinking mind. This is advanced consciousness technology. This is how you start operating as a whole system rather than just a thinking system. This is how you access the full spectrum of your intelligence rather than just the narrow band of rational analysis. When you operate from this expanded intelligence, your life starts to feel less like a problem to be solved and more like a mystery to be explored. Less like a test to be passed and more like an adventure to be lived. This shift in perspective changes everything about how you approach your choices and challenges. You stop trying to get transformation right and start trusting the intelligence of the transformation process itself. You stop asking, "What if I make the wrong choice?" and start asking, "What is this choice trying to teach me?" You stop fearing failure and start embracing learning. This is how you transform your relationship with uncertainty from anxiety to curiosity, from threat to opportunity, from something to be avoided to something to be explored. Uncertainty stops being the enemy of security and starts being the ally of possibility. Because in uncertainty, anything can happen. In uncertainty, new realities can emerge that were invisible from the perspective of what you thought you knew. Your turning point is actually an invitation into a more intimate relationship with uncertainty, with not knowing, with the creative potential that exists in the space between what was and what will be. Most people spend their lives trying to minimize uncertainty, trying to create predictability and control. But consciousness itself emerges from uncertainty, from the quantum field of infinite possibility that exists before any specific reality crystallizes. When you learn to dance with uncertainty rather than resist it, you align yourself with the creative principle of consciousness itself. You become a conscious participant in the ongoing creation of reality, rather than just a passive recipient of predetermined outcomes. This is what it means to live as a conscious creator, rather than an unconscious reactor. To recognize that every moment offers you the opportunity to collapse infinite possibility into specific experience through your choices, attention, and energetic alignment. Your turning point is life inviting you to step into this level of conscious participation in your own creation. To stop waiting for life to happen to you and start recognizing that life is happening through you. But this recognition requires responsibility. Not the heavy, burdensome kind of responsibility that makes you feel guilty for everything that happens in your experience. The light, empowering kind of responsibility that recognizes your power to influence your reality through your consciousness. This is responsibility. The ability to respond consciously to what's arising in your experience, rather than react unconsciously from old patterns and conditioning. When you develop genuine responsibility, you stop being a victim of your circumstances and start being a conscious participant in creating your circumstances. This doesn't mean you control everything that happens in your experience. It means you have the power to choose how you relate to everything that happens in your experience. And how you relate to what happens becomes the foundation for what happens next. Your relationship with your current reality creates the vibrational foundation for your future reality. This is why your turning point isn't just about changing your external circumstances. It's about transforming your relationship with reality itself. When you transform your relationship with reality, reality transforms its relationship with you. You stop experiencing life as something that happens to you and start experiencing life as something that happens with you, through you, as you. This shift in experience is the deepest level of transformation available to human consciousness. It's the recognition that you are not separate from life, but that you are life expressing itself as the unique configuration of awareness that you are. Your turning point is life inviting you to wake up to this truth, to remember who you really are underneath all the stories you've been told about being small, limited, separate, and powerless. You are none of those things. You are consciousness itself, temporarily focused through the lens of individual experience, exploring its own infinite nature through the adventure of being human. Your authentic calling, the thing that's been stirring within you, is actually consciousness calling itself home to this recognition through the vehicle of your individual journey. This is why your transformation matters not just to you, but to the evolution of consciousness itself. Every time someone wakes up to their true nature, it makes it easier for others to wake up to theirs. Every time someone chooses growth over safety, expansion over contraction, authenticity over conformity, they contribute to a global shift in what humans believe is possible for human experience. Your turning point is both deeply personal and cosmically significant. It's your individual journey and humanity's collective journey expressing themselves as one movement. This understanding removes any sense of selfishness from following your authentic calling. You're not abandoning others to pursue your own interests. You're serving others by demonstrating what becomes possible when someone chooses to live authentically. You become living proof that transformation is possible, that people can change, that life can be lived with greater freedom, joy, and purpose than most people believe. This is how you serve the world. Not by sacrificing your authenticity to meet others' expectations, but by expressing your authenticity so fully that it gives others permission to express theirs. Your turning point is asking you to trust that your individual fulfillment and your contribution to collective evolution are not opposing forces, but aspects of the same movement. When you align with what truly serves your soul's evolution, you automatically serve the evolution of the whole, because individual consciousness and collective consciousness are not separate systems. They are one system expressing itself through countless individual perspectives, each perspective contributing its unique gifts to the continuing evolution of the whole. Your gifts are not accidents. Your calling is not arbitrary. Your turning point is not random. They are all expressions of the intelligence of evolution itself, using your individual experience to explore new possibilities for what human consciousness can become. This is the cosmic context of your personal transformation. You are not just changing your own life. You are participating in the ongoing creation of what becomes possible for human experience itself. This recognition elevates your choices from personal preferences to sacred service. Every time you choose authenticity over approval, growth over safety, truth over comfort, you are not just serving your own evolution. You are serving the evolution of consciousness itself, contributing to the emergence of new possibilities for how humans can live, love, create, and contribute to the unfolding story of life on this planet. Your turning point is actually a cosmic invitation disguised as a personal choice. An invitation to remember that your individual journey and the universal journey are not separate adventures, but one adventure expressing itself through the unique lens of your experience. When you accept this invitation, everything changes. Your choices carry more weight because you recognize their significance. Your courage grows because you understand what you're serving. Your faith deepens because you feel yourself held by something infinitely larger than your individual concerns. You stop asking, "What should I do with my life?" and start asking, "What does life want to do through me?" You stop trying to figure out your purpose and start allowing your purpose to find you by being fully present to what wants to emerge through your authentic expression. This is the secret of purposeful living. Purpose isn't something you find or create. Purpose is something you become available for by removing everything that blocks your natural expression. Your turning point is life asking you to remove whatever blocks remain between who you think you should be and who you actually are. The universe is not asking you to become someone extraordinary. The universe is asking you to become extraordinarily yourself. This is enough. This has always been enough. This will always be enough. Your turning point is here. Your moment is now. Your invitation is waiting for your response. What you're feeling right now, that mixture of excitement and nervousness, is the signature frequency of conscious evolution. It's the feeling of being right at the edge of your current identity, looking into the vast space of who you're becoming. Most people spend their entire lives avoiding this edge, staying safely in the center of their comfort zone. But you're not most people. You're here because some part of you recognizes that the edge is where life actually happens. Not the edge of recklessness or unconscious risk-taking, but the edge of conscious growth. The place where you're stretching beyond your current capacity while still honoring your wisdom and well-being. This is the art of conscious evolution. Learning to dance with uncertainty while trusting the intelligence that's orchestrating your unfolding. Learning to take inspired action while remaining open to course corrections. Learning to commit fully to your growth while holding lightly to specific outcomes. Learning to be decisive about your direction while staying flexible about your methods. These are advanced skills of consciousness that you can only develop through practice. And practice requires you to actually step into the unknown territory of your own evolution, rather than just thinking about it or preparing for it indefinitely. Your turning point is your invitation to begin this practice now. Not when you're more ready, not when you have more information, not when you feel more confident. Now, with whatever level of readiness you currently possess. Because readiness isn't a prerequisite for growth. Readiness is a result of growth. You become ready by beginning, not by waiting until you feel ready to begin. The universe has placed this moment in your experience because you already have everything you need to take the next step. Not the step after that, not the entire staircase, just the next step. And here's what I want you to understand about that next step. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It doesn't have to be life-changing. It just has to be authentic. It just has to honor the calling that brought you here. Maybe your next step is having a conversation you've been avoiding. Maybe it's researching something that's been capturing your curiosity. Maybe it's signing up for a class, booking a trip, starting a creative project, or simply setting aside time to listen more deeply to what wants to emerge through your life. The size of the step isn't what matters. The sincerity of the step is what matters. The universe responds to authentic intention, not grand gestures. When you take one sincere step in the direction of your authentic calling, you send a clear signal to the quantum field that you're ready for support. And support will come, though often not in the form you expected. Sometimes support looks like opportunities appearing. Sometimes it looks like obstacles dissolving. Sometimes it looks like inner clarity suddenly emerging about what you need to do next. Sometimes support looks like meeting exactly the right person at exactly the right time. Sometimes it looks like finding the perfect resource or information right when you need it most. But sometimes support looks like challenges that force you to develop new capacities. Sometimes it looks like delays that redirect you toward better timing. Sometimes it looks like closed doors that guide you toward paths you hadn't considered. The key is learning to recognize support in all its forms, not just the comfortable forms. Learning to trust that everything showing up in your experience is somehow serving your highest evolution, even when you can't immediately see how. This is what it means to live as a conscious co-creator with the intelligence of life itself. You contribute your intention, attention, and authentic action. Life contributes the orchestration, timing, and broader perspective you couldn't possibly manage on your own. It's a partnership between your individual consciousness and the cosmic consciousness that operates through all existence. And like any partnership, it requires trust, communication, and willingness to let each partner contribute their unique gifts. Drop one word below that captures the energy of transformation you're choosing to embody after our time together. Let this word be your energetic signature to the quantum field, your declaration of where you're directing your consciousness from this moment forward. This isn't just a comment. This is a sacred act of commitment to your own evolution. When you type that word and share it, you're creating a coherent vibration that aligns your inner intention with your outer expression. You're also joining your energy with everyone else who's been moved by this exploration, creating a collective field of transformation that supports each individual journey while contributing to the larger shift in human consciousness. Before we close, I want to offer you one final invitation. Subscribe not just to stay connected to this content, but to stay aligned with this frequency of conscious evolution and authentic living. When you subscribe, you're making a commitment to yourself to regularly receive reminders of who you really are underneath all the conditioning and compromise. You're creating a consistent touchpoint with the truth of your infinite potential. You're also joining a community of consciousness that understands that personal transformation isn't a selfish act. It's a service to the collective evolution of our species. The more of us who choose to honor our authentic calling over comfortable conformity, the more the world reflects the possibility of authentic living. The more of us who trust our inner guidance over outer validation, the more the world becomes a place where inner guidance is valued and supported. Your individual choice to embrace this turning point in your life contributes to a global shift toward more conscious, more authentic, more purposeful ways of being human. This is how change happens in the world, not through grand revolutions, but through individual consciousness evolving one person at a time, creating ripple effects that eventually become waves of transformation. Consider sharing this video with someone who's been expressing their own restlessness or questioning their current path. When you share these quantum consciousness principles, you're not just passing along information. You're creating an energetic transmission that can activate dormant potential in another's awareness, while simultaneously strengthening these frequencies in your own field of experience. You came here today for a reason. That reason wasn't just to consume information or be entertained. That reason was to remember who you really are and to receive support for becoming more fully yourself than you've ever allowed yourself to be. Your turning point isn't something you're approaching. It's something you're standing in right now. The question isn't whether it's here. The question is what you're going to do with it. The same intelligence that brought you to this moment is ready to guide you through whatever comes next. But it can only guide you where you're willing to go. It can only show you what you're willing to see. It can only support you in what you're willing to trust. Your willingness is your gift to the universe. The universe's response to your willingness is its gift to you. The turning point you've reached isn't an ending. It's a beginning. Not the beginning of someone else's life, but the beginning of your own life lived with unprecedented authenticity and courage. Everything that brought you here was preparation. Everything that comes next is application. You've been selected, not by external forces, but by your own soul's recognition that it's time to stop playing small and start living large. Your turning point is here. Your choice is now. Your moment is this one. Trust the intelligence that brought you here to guide you forward. The universe is waiting for your response. Now, if you've recognized yourself as someone who's different, someone who operates on a frequency that others don't always understand, you need to understand what that actually means for your role in this cosmic shift. Because being chosen isn't just about personal transformation, it's about becoming a conscious transmitter of possibility itself. Discover how your unique frequency becomes a gift to collective evolution. You're not like the others. This is the moment you prove it.